Hello everyone and welcome to Deadline Day here at the Athletic HQ. My name is Adam Leventhal and as you would expect, David Ornstein is here, but he is pinned to his phone, as you would imagine. David, very good morning to you. How are you?
I'm very well, Adam. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Should we let's be sort of, we try and cut through the fluff of Deadline Day sometimes.
That was a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm glad I actually reached for the right F word there. Your morning so far? How has it been? Just give us honestly what has been going on, toing and froing.
I think when you come into a deadline day, as you well know, mornings and evenings blend into each other. And I actually got more sleep coming into this deadline day than I've done for about 12 years.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out, I think it's about my 15th, 16th year working on it. So it becomes something you're prepared for. And last night was, relatively hectic. It was sort of pieces of jigsaws falling into place and preparing yourself for what might be to come. And now it's just starting to roll because the deals have to get done. And one of the fascinating things about Deadline Day is that throughout the window, clubs don't really want to talk to you. Agents don't really want to talk to you unless they're trying to push a player. And they want to keep things to themselves. But on Deadline Day, it has to happen by 11 o'clock anyway. So suddenly, communications departments who were like getting water out of a stone are gushing like a river. And they just tell you what's happening. And that's part of what makes it beautiful. So yeah, lots of deals we can talk about.
But you've forgotten your iPad. That's basically what I was angling.
I've left my iPad at the hotel I was staying at overnight. I now need to go back to that hotel to get it. And I've had to cancel my cab to be with you.
Well, priorities, that's what it's all about. So, we are live for you right now on Twitter, on Facebook and on YouTube. If you're watching on one of the platforms and you want to be watching on one of the other ones, then just search The Athletic UK and then you'll be able to watch us throughout the day on our 4 live shows that we've got. As you can see next to my ugly mug up there, we have one right now between 9 and 10 o'clock, then lunchtime 12 till 1, then the sort of the home time one, let's call it, between 5 and 6, and then we'll be here at 10:30, building up to the deadline at 11 o'clock, which is 13 hours and 50 odd minutes to go now. Here all the 11:30. But as we know, and in the sort of preamble to me making sure that David was here in the studio, just pegging away at him, just saying, look, can you be here? Can you be here? He did point out the fact that it is going to be a late night. It will go to around about 1 o'clock in the morning because the all-important deal sheets, they need to be in, David, by 11 o'clock.
Yeah, by 11.
Very much how I used to school. Leave right until the last revision. If you can get it in by 11, a little bit of extra time. So we've got lots coming up for you today. On this show, we'll be speaking to David Ornstein in a moment, but we will also be speaking live to Dominic Fifield. He'll be keeping us up to date with what's going on with Chelsea and Crystal Palace. Also, Phil Hay is going to be talking to us a little bit later on about Dan James. That's one of the big deals of Deadline Day that we're looking forward to. Michael Bailey on Norwich and also Rob Tanner on Leicester. It's going to be a busy day for Leicester City today. And just one piece that I wanted to point you in the direction of, because if you're not familiar with The Athletic, obviously we are here today concentrating on the headlines and the breaking news, but we do deeper dives and longer reads on the signings that have happened during the window and also throughout the season, the analysis, the in-depth analysis that you've, I think you can safely say now that you now know and love on The Athletic. So we are focusing today on the breaking news, but there is one piece that I did want to point you in the direction of the deals that could still happen on Deadline Day that has been collected together by a whole collection of our writers, the likes of Kylian Mbappe, Dan James, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Emerson Royal, Saul Niguez, James Rodriguez, Odsonne Edouard, who we'll be speaking to Dom Fifield about a little bit later on, Ademola Lookman as well. So there's plenty of players potentially on the move today. David, let's drag you away from your phone.
Yep.
I'm sort of almost tempted to say, what are you chasing at the moment? I probably shouldn't ask. I won't ask, but I might ask. Go on. What are you up to at the moment?
Look, there's no point not being candid at this stage. So we're looking into who Arsenal might be signing at right back, because I think that's the position that they are still looking to strengthen him. It could be contingent on outgoings, such as Hector Bellerin, if he gets the move that he wants. We also know that Ainsley Maitland-Niles wants to leave Arsenal. He made that very clear on Instagram yesterday, but it doesn't look like that's going to be granted.
That's happened before with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He's tried to wrangle himself away, and it's just not happened yet.
Exactly. So last summer, he was determined to get himself back playing first-team football again, having seen his England place slip away from him, which looked like he might be going to the Euros at one point when he broke into the squad in 2020. But he didn't play much for Arsenal at all. Wolves were lined up. I think they made forgive me if I've got this wrong, but around £20 million offer. It was rejected by Arsenal. They kept him, seemed to be a key part of their plans. Well, at least that's what they were saying. But he hasn't played much at all. Fast forward to now, Everton have come in with a loan and an option to buy proposal. They put it to Arsenal. Arsenal seemed like they would entertain that, but then turned around and said, you're not going anywhere, which is why he released that Instagram post saying that I just want to go, I just want to play. I want to go somewhere where I'm wanted, with crying emojis and tagging Arsenal in it, which I've not seen for a long time. I think there was something similar with Darren Bent quite a few years ago. The Arsenal situation, what they're going to do without going to right back, and particularly if they're going to bring somebody in, and without giving too much away, we're furiously trying to find out who that might be, if anybody. And then there are other situations across the board. At the other end of the spectrum, someone like Kylian Mbappe, we've got to deal with the bigger situations as well. Could that happen to Real Madrid? I don't think it's likely now, and especially because they have turned their attentions to Camavinga, and that's where their finances seem to be trained towards.
I think Camavinga's, that's pretty much done now, isn't it?
Yep, I was told very late last night that that's done. He's had his medical, and I don't know the exact fee, in excess of 30 million euros, I think. I mean, Real Madrid must have a hole being in their money, because they were offering the best part of 200 million euros, Kylian Mbappe. And I don't think that's going to happen now. So it looks like that would be a to join as a free 2022, but it could be somebody else. And otherwise, we're reacting to situations. Just in a deal that is with an option of a 30 million euros with 9 million euros in add-ons. Really impressive. CSKA Moscow, previously on loan at Everton. It didn't work out there, but it has worked out for that attacking player. Wolves, what will they do with the Adama Traore? I think they're going to keep him. It would take a massive offer, £50 million roughly, to prize him away from Molineux, where he's become a key man for Bruno Lage. And will they bring in Renato Sanchez from Lille? Now that's an interesting situation, because they are working on a deal, but I'm told it is currently blocked because of disagreement on terms between the two clubs. And it's not clear that that's going to get done. It's being rated at 50-50. So your eyes are looking at every club, and it can change at any moment. So it's a good fun day.
And there's been, in the build-up to deadline day, are there random of potential, something that's not there, but any sort of area you think, well, if this doesn't happen, then have to then one sort of just buzzing around that we might look out for? Put you on the spot there, haven't I?
Yeah, that's interesting, because when you hear that somebody like Adama Traore, it would take a crazy offer for, and then you hear the number £50 million, you don't think that's as crazy as some figures over the years. So that's what Arsenal paid for Ben White, for example, and Adama Traore is a more damaging player in terms of his attacking prowess.
On that, because that Ben White fee was obviously based pretty much on playing well, being a great prospect, England call up, gosh, that raises your levels. That it's for a defender, and obviously we like to sort of know about the big deals with the strikers, and the ones that are going to be scoring goals and celebrating and are going to be the big heroes. Do you think that's distorted the market a little bit, that transfer fee? Nothing to do with him or him as a person or his abilities or whatever, but do you think it has distorted the market in England in particular? Yeah,
I think it probably has. When, you can't compare it to previous centre-backs 2018 was it? Harry Maguire for 80 million odd to Manchester United. Virgil van Dijk a few years earlier for 75 million, Southampton to Liverpool. That was not during a pandemic. That's when the financial markets were extremely strong.
But they had a stronger body of work as well, didn't
and
they?
And they did, and crucially they did. So the payment was felt high but justified.
Yeah.
With Ben White, who many clubs have looked at and wanted and is highly rated, I think if he hadn't been called into the England squad, there would have been anarchy at the idea of somebody paying 50 million for him. But when you then speak to people within the game, they say this guy's got a massively high bar to achieve. And then when you compare it to those fees and say that this guy could have 10 years at Arsenal, he's 23 years old, I think, then actually it's not too bad. I don't think it's distorted the market. I think it's probably shown a few clubs what they can get for their players. And when you see things like that, it emboldens the likes of Wolves to say Adama Traore, 50 million, maybe more.
Yeah.
So it hasn't distorted, but it's probably emboldened.
Yeah.
And I don't think many clubs thought they could be emboldened while a pandemic was still going on and affecting the market, but they can, and a deal like Ben White showed that.
A lot of people will be watching, in particular, I mean, you mentioned Arsenal a few moments ago, but I wanted to just sort of dig in on Arsenal a little bit, because a lot of Arsenal fans will be watching because you are there, sat on the sofa, and they'll be going, hanging on your every word. In terms of the business that Arsenal have done so far, yes, some people might have raised eyebrows about the signing of Ben White, that fee, and a lot of people will have gone, they've spent, 20 plus million on Aaron Ramsdale. That was another deal that was done, which is a lot of money to spend on a reserve keeper, isn't it? How do you assess how Arsenal have managed to sort of negotiate this market so far? Has it surprised you the way that they're doing it? Is it part of the whole transition at the club?
Good question. Well done. You asked two parts there. One is this sort of project or plan they've embarked upon this summer. That's a bit confusing to me, because only last summer, 2020, we were looking at Arsenal signing more experienced players.
Yeah.
And even going back to the previous year with David Luiz, Pablo Mari in that January, older guys who could help bring the young guys through. That didn't seem to work, and fast forward to this summer and they've gone the complete opposite way, and they've brought in younger guys with potential, which I think is a good move. But what was going on a year to 18 months to 2 years ago? And that says to me to be quite a confused way of thinking, and underlines that there has been a lot of change and disruption, and I don't think they've been operating at best practice for quite a while now. However, I do like what they've done in the transfer market, and I've got no shame in saying that. I think Ben White's a really good signing. I think Lokonga could be a real gem in midfield. I think Tavares provides the depth and potential that they were looking for in left full-back, and seemingly can also operate on the right. Martin Odegaard is a good player. I think for that price, it's really good value for money. I don't think he is at the level that some Arsenal fans were expecting of that creative midfielder, maybe like when James Maddison was rumoured to be a target. And so there may be a bit of dissatisfaction there. But the age profile, the wages that they're earning, the prices that they've paid for them are not outrageous if they prove to be good signings on the long run. The problem is that word if, and people are looking at them bottom of the league now, with the new signings having either not played or made little impact. Aaron Ramsdale did very well in the League Cup game, and now many fans want to see him brought into the first team. And that's the price that I think people have questioned even more than the Ben White one. I actually think Ramsdale's a really good signing, because I speak to people at the clubs that he's played for and the international setup that he's been involved in. And they couldn't speak higher of him as a player or a professional. And with uncertainty over the future of Bernd Leno, if he goes on to be Arsenal's number one and succeeds, everybody will say great value, young player, homegrown, etc. So my summary is that Arsenal have had a decent window. Unfortunately, it might take a lot longer to translate onto the field of play. And that is the burning dilemma that fans and pundits are going to have to get their head around.
Yeah, okay. David, thank you very much for now. Do stick around, because I just wanted to whiz around a few updates that we've got in from our athletic reporters around the country, and that's what we'll be doing throughout the day today. Just to update you on a couple of signings that have gone through today already. Moise Keane has left Everton on loan back to Juventus. West Ham have confirmed the signing of Nikola Vlasic, Croatian international from CSK Moscow. And as we mentioned earlier on, it is going to be a busy day for Leicester City. And we can just get the latest now from Rob Tanner, who is our dedicated Leicester City reporter.
Well, it's deadline day and it could be a busy one at Leicester City. They're looking to get 1 in and possibly 3 out today. Ademola Lookman could be coming in on loan with a view to a permanent deal from RB Leipzig. And on the way out, Dennis Pratt to Torino, Hamza Chowdhury possibly. There's several clubs in for him, one of them being Newcastle. And also Papi Mendy as Brendan Rodgers tweaks his squad ahead of the end of the deadline.
Okay, that was Rob Tanner. I hope you could hear him then. We just lost his audio a little bit in here, but hopefully you got an update of what potentially is going to be a busy day for Leicester City. Just to remind you, if you are trying to keep track with deadline day, it can be very difficult, and there's so much information flying around on social media. Do check in with the Athletics transfer tracker, which has sort of time prints on it, and it will tell you what's going on throughout the day if you wanted to sort of just track back and check if your players have been signed for your club. And also check out the little ticker that we've got at the bottom of your screen there. And if you're not yet a subscriber to The Athletic, you can go to that link, theathletic.com/live show. And we will be joined in around about 7 minutes time or so by Dom Fifield to talk about Crystal Palace and also Chelsea as well. Crystal Palace hoping to confirm the signing of Odsonne Edouard today from Celtic. Interesting one that's just popped up actually from the lower leagues, Blackpool. Dujon Sterling has gone on a season-long loan from Chelsea, and he's had some recent troubles, but that is a good signing for Dujon Sterling, just joining Blackpool on loan. Okay, before I come back to David, maybe we'll just check in with a couple of our other reporters. Norwich City promoted to the Premier League. They've had a difficult start considering the fixtures that they've had, but they have also been busy and maybe doing a little bit more to try and stay up than they did previously back in 2019-20. Here's Michael Bailey.
I feel like one of the lucky ones because I'm just going to spend deadline day at the bottom of my garden. But it has been a busy 24 hours for Norwich City leading up to it. They've signed a defensive midfielder, Matthias Norman, on loan from Rostov, a centre-back, Ozan Kabak, on loan from Schalke, 2 positions Norwich were desperate for at the rear end of their team. They've already done all their attacking reinforcements, 9 summer signings, an outlay of £70 million in total. Every box ticked for Norwich City in the Premier League. This is a good window.
Okay, so yeah, Norwich doing a little bit more than they did last time. Just a quick word, because some of you will be watching to just check out what's happening with Watford today. They had a busy day yesterday. Troy Deeney, the club legend, the club captain, has left to go to the club that he supported since a boy. He's gone to Birmingham City, so it was a busy day. Expecting confirmation of the loan signing of Andre Gray, departing to go to Queen's Park Rangers. Also, keeping an eye on Domingos Quina, where he's going to end up today. And also, there is a slight chance that Nathaniel Shalabar may be on the move today. We're just keeping an eye on that, but he may well stick around. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, but there are a few clubs that are interested in doing a deal for him. You may remember the last transfer window, he was involved in a little bit of a love triangle with various players that got a little bit log-jammed, and he ended up staying at Watford, didn't go to Leicester City, involved Chowdhury, and who else did it involve? Longstaff at Newcastle, and it all got a little bit confusing, but pretty much everyone stayed where they were. David, let me just come back to you. We will be speaking to Dom Fifield in a moment's time. In terms of how this market has been overall, is it something that has surprised you in terms of the amounts that we have seen? Obviously, we've seen some mega deals. We haven't even mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo yet, but the likes of Lukaku in particular going to Chelsea, back to Chelsea. I mean, I suppose it will have surprised a lot of people, maybe in the smaller clubs, to just see all this money just being sprayed around.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. A year ago, we were, you could say, in the height of the pandemic, and all of the clubs were saying, we're not going to be spending, there's no money to spend. Why do you journalists and fans say we should be spending?
Yeah.
You need to understand the scale of this crisis. And then a load of them did go and spend. And it's hard to compute that in your head. They did so on the premise that they would be selling players at the end of the window to balance the books, and very few of them actually did. Even Chelsea, the brilliant sellers that they normally are and have shown to be this summer, struggled to get bodies out the door last summer. So this year was said they definitely won't be spending. There won't be a repeat of what you saw last summer. There were still not fans back inside grounds on a large scale when the window opened. The effects of the pandemic were still being sharply felt, and it would be a very restrained window of small fees, loans and swaps. Well, we've seen something very different materialise. Now, you could look at PSG and say, well, they haven't spent much on transfer fees, but the amount they will have spent on wages is eye-watering and raises questions about how they're complying with financial fair play, if it still exists. But then you look at the likes of Manchester City, £100 million on Jack Grealish, a transfer people seem to be forgetting. First ever £100 million deal within the Premier League. The Ronaldo one, actually, on transfer fee alone is relatively good value for money. €15 million plus €8 million in add-ons, as we revealed on the day, Friday of last week, on The Athletic. I think there is surprise that teams like Arsenal have been able to invest so heavily, given they are feeling the effects of the pandemic and outside of European competition, and constantly were being told that they've got so little money. I think there were some creative methods used by clubs during this window, spreading payments out over a larger number of years than they had done in the past.
Yeah.
So whereas Arsenal may have done 3-year payment spread previously, it may now be 5 years or 6 years. And that's really helped them. It's not rocket science, it's just a slightly more liberal way of doing it. Romelu Lukaku to Chelsea. We know they can spend that sort of money with Roman Abramovich's backing. They have had issues complying with financial fair play, or they've come close to the line in recent seasons. And so they had to make sure they got bodies out the door. They've done so quite spectacularly. I don't know if Chelsea are quite breaking even yet, but they can't be far off. And they still want to do more business, which that sort of outgoing work would allow them to do if they're able to get Jules Koundé. But as we revealed in my Monday column, that deal was off as of Monday because Sevilla had raised their asking price and Chelsea weren't willing to come up to it when they thought they had a verbal agreement, which is interesting in itself, that clubs are feeling emboldened to raise their asking price after Chelsea get a player like Zuma out of the door for €30 million. And that's sending a message to the rest of Europe like, well, they've got money, so they can come and pay us. So overall, I've been surprised by the level of investment. Obviously, it's not been as high lower down, but even the likes of Leicester City, bringing in the likes of Patson Daka, bringing in Boubakary Soumaré, and they may even do some more business, as Rob Tanner explained there, with a winger potentially coming in, although I think they'd like to do that more as a loan. So overall, a buoyant window in comparison to expectations.
In a moment's time, I just wanted to ask you about Harry Kane.
Yeah.
And the sort of the knock-on effect. We know that he's staying at Tottenham. I found it quite strange, to be honest, being at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Obviously, I was focusing on the Watford side of things, but seeing all the Tottenham fans cheering his name, he's one of our own, and him there, and you just thought, he didn't want to be here. It was very, very clear he didn't want to be here, but he is sticking around. And I just want to ask you, maybe in a moment's time, about the sort of the knock-on effect and what might come, and maybe reflect on Man City. And it's unlikely that they'll do something today in terms of a big striker, but how they will sort of frame their thinking. Okay, let's now focus on Chelsea in particular and Crystal Palace as well. And I do believe we can now speak live to Dominic Fifield, who has a particular interest in Crystal Palace, but covers all sorts of things for The Athletic, one of our senior writers here. Dom, a very good morning to you. How are you?
It's way too early, Adam. I don't know how you do this. How did you do this on Sky? Oh, this is madness.
Can you hear me all right? I'm sure
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You can hear me. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Dom. Right, good. I'm presuming you're well. I couldn't hear whether you were or not, but I am presuming that you're well. I'll crack on. Just give us an insight into what's happening with Crystal Palace today, because Odsonne Edouard is finally going to become a Palace player. Is that your understanding at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's likely to go through. David will add a bit of flesh to the bones, I suspect, on that one. But Palace have been looking at Odsonne Edouard for a long time, probably going back 18 months, 2 years, really. They were desperate for a striker addition. Patrick Vieira was happy with the potential signing of Edouard from Celtic. He wasn't put off by the performance in the Old Firm derby at the weekend. And this is a player that scored 77 goals, I think, for Celtic. He comes with some pedigree. He's still young, so he fits the profile of the type of player that Palace have been trying to bring in all summer. And he will become, all being well, their seventh signing of the summer. And will probably conclude their business, most likely. I think a few Palace fans, and myself included, would have liked to have seen maybe a right winger coming in as well, but I'm not sure that will happen in this window. Palace have got Michael Olise, one of their additions, now back in training back at Beckenham. Hopefully after the international break he'll be in contention to play for the first team, and that should add another option for Patrick Vieira up front and make them more potent going forward, because that's been an area they've struggled in obviously this season.
And Just tell me, with my Watford hat on, where does Will Hughes fit in, especially with Conor Gallagher sort of pulling up trees against West Ham? Is Will Hughes going to be getting into that Crystal Palace midfield, having spent £6 million on him?
I think he may well do. Yeah, I think they look at Will Hughes as potentially a long-term successor to the likes of James MacArthur in that midfield, which is maybe in a more creative and advanced role. But actually, the way that Vieira's playing, he wants them to build up from the back. They want a midfielder, a deep-lying midfielder who's comfortable picking up possession and turning and picking a pass between the lines, etc. And I'm not sure they've got that at the moment. Luka Milivojevic has been absent for he's been back in Serbia for compassionate reasons and had an injury as well, I think, in pre-season, so he hasn't featured yet. Cheick Kouyate's been filling in there, and he's more of an old school destroyer, I guess, if you have in that anchor role in midfield, and maybe not so comfortable picking up the ball from a centre half, from his goalkeeper, and building the play. And I think Will Hughes can do that, so he just adds an option for Crystal Palace in that area. I mean, I don't know whether it will be a regular. He may well prove to be if he hits the ground running when he comes in. But they just want to play a bit more football this season. I think they want to be quite as direct, and they want to play through midfield, and they need players who are comfortable on the ball to do that.
Right. A lot of Watford fans will be thinking, yeah, that's what Watford need. Oh, they had Will Hughes, but now he's gone. Never mind. I wanted to switch now to Chelsea, if we can. What are your expectations of today? Because it's very difficult to pick sometimes with Chelsea, because they've got the financial muscle to get whatever deal they want to do done whenever they want. But are they pushing it a little bit to some of the sort of scale of transfers that they want to do today? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think there are a few intriguing elements to their day ahead. I mean, I want to know what's going to happen to Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's very much on the fringes of the first team, although a player that Thomas Tuchel would prefer to have around the place going forward. But he wants first team football, and we've heard of the interest of Borussia Dortmund. Difficult deal to do financially, both in terms of his wage and if he was to leave permanently, in terms of the transfer fee that will be required to take him. A couple of other fringe players are quite interesting as well. Ross Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I mean, I don't think Barkley's even got a squad number at Chelsea. The whole prospect, I mean, of him sitting out this season, basically in the under-23s at that club, is is remarkable for a player that was an England international not that long ago. So I wonder whether there might be late interest shown in him. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, World Cup player in 2018, very much on the fringes. Where does he go now? What's his future? If they don't add another body in midfield, do they keep Ruben Loftus-Cheek around to, in the hope that he remains fit and can operate for them in midfield as an option, to maybe alleviate some of the pressure that's on N'Golo Conte and Mateo Kovacic and Jorginho. And then in terms of incomings, I mean, they may not get Jules Koundé done in this window, but I'm sure they'll be revisiting that in future windows. There's a lot of uncertainty around the centre halves at Chelsea at the moment. And we know that Andreas Christensen is due to sign a new 4+1 year deal, I think it is, at Chelsea. But Antonio Rudiger's in the last year of his contract, as Azpilicueta's in the last year of his contract as well. So, is this a player is Jules Koundé a player that they go back in for in January? Is it someone they try again for in the summer? I suspect they'll be making plans for that, even if that deal does not get done today.
Okay, Dom, much appreciated. I'm sure we'll check in with you a little bit later on Crystal Palace, on Chelsea, and also I'm sure any other random things that happen that you've got your ear to the ground on. So thank you very much for joining us. Great to see you as always. Thank you very much. David, as we were talking there to Dom, just the small matter of... we might have Adam Hurrey in the studio a little bit later on. I've just said the small matter of Cristiano Ronaldo being confirmed as a Manchester United signing. That's a decent sort of whack of breaking news on deadline day. Obviously, we all knew it was happening, but just why has it taken to this point for it to finally be confirmed?
Well, it's certainly overshadowed the news that's also just broken, that Jordan Henderson has signed a new contract.
You flagged
Liverpool.
That quite early, didn't you? On the
we reported in the Monday column a couple of weeks ago exclusively that Jordan Henderson was set to sign a new contract of, I think it's 3 years with an option of a fourth, depending on the number of appearances he makes. And of course, we've first reported that the deal was in trouble. It wasn't particularly moving. It was at an impasse. But that broke through after he returned from his holidays and Liverpool made an improved offer and they keep their captain. But, as we say, overshadowed by Ronaldo. And people can go and look up the statements that he and Manchester United have released, confirming a 2-year contract with an option of a third. So that could take him to 39 years old. He'll be 37, 38. Yeah. So, and there were reports in the press this morning that he's looking at playing for Manchester United until potentially beyond the age of 40, which would be extraordinary. Look, very briefly, that was a deal that was rapidly brought about on Thursday into Friday. Manchester United had been offered Ronaldo all summer, repeatedly, and they weren't the only ones. And all of these clubs turned him down. United planned to bring him in as a free agent in the summer of 2022 as a 37-year-old. But Manchester City's interest piqued Manchester United's. And Manchester City's was a result of Harry Kane not moving to them. He was their priority target. When that deal was, well, it wasn't a deal, when that possibility had gone, Manchester City opened themselves to the idea of bringing Ronaldo in. They had conversations about it. Salaries were proposed and contracts, I think they were looking at only doing a 1 year plus one. And it was gathering pace, wasn't it? Very rapidly, and it seemed he would be, unbelievably, given his background, heading to Manchester City. However, Manchester United stepped in, and when they come for a player who's a legend of their club, and they offer a better salary, quite significantly, as I understand it, around 25 million euros net after tax, plus 5 million euros in add-ons, whereas Manchester City was a fair bit below that, both of them below what he's earning, or was earning at Juventus. And then you bring in Sir Alex Ferguson and you bring in Rio Ferdinand and Darren Fletcher and Patrice Evra. It was always likely that he was going to go back to Old Trafford. Manchester City will say that it was their decision not to pursue it because they would have had to get rid of a player to facilitate it, a significant departure. And that's just not happening at the moment. They don't have offers for the likes of Bernardo Silva or Gabriel Jesus, and Riyad Mahrez, Raheem Sterling, or they don't want to go. And it was much easier for Manchester United to do it. If you look at the statement, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talks about the unique appeal of Manchester United. I wonder if that's a little jab at Manchester City. But it's an extraordinary transfer for a relatively low fee, but a very high salary. And Manchester United will hope this is not just a PR move, an attempt at window dressing, at satisfying their fans around the world. They will hope that he helps them to success, blends into their side. I mean, it's extraordinary. United have brought in Sancho, Varane and Cristiano Ronaldo. It's the ultimate act of faith in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ronaldo was attracted by Manchester City because of Pep Guardiola and the chance to win the Champions League. And sources suggested that he saw that chance being better there than he did at Manchester United. But he's gone to Manchester United. He will hope to have success there. And there's no real margin for error for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now. He has to win this season. When you buy Ronaldo, it's to win now. And that's what they'll want to do.
A lot of you at home will have seen on social media the big splash of Ronaldo returns and all that sort of stuff. And the quotes are interesting, as David mentioned, about Ronaldo's signing. Solskjaer saying, "You run out of words to describe Cristiano. He's not only a marvellous player, but also a great human being. To have the desire and ability to play at the top level for such a long period requires a very special person. I have no doubt that he will continue to impress us all, and his experience will be so vital for the younger players in the squad." Ronaldo's return demonstrates, as David said, the unique appeal of this club. Dig. And I'm absolutely delighted that he's coming home to where it all started. Just one more word on him, on Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, a lot of the narrative, rightly or wrongly, at Manchester United, especially when Jose Mourinho was there, was clashes of personalities. Paul Pogba was involved. The way that Mourinho was trying to sort of impose his strength and things like that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has obviously been able to be a more conciliatory figure at the club. He knows it. He's been part of it. How do you think manoeuvring Cristiano Ronaldo into that environment will work? Is it going to be as seamless as they are saying? I mean, he is such a huge star, and one would expect it to go to plan because his standards don't often drop. What's your gut feeling on it? Do you think this is the final piece in the jigsaw, or it's just going to be fascinating to watch it sort of a few sort of heads clashing here and there?
Well, it's a really pertinent point that sadly the old cliche, time will tell, because we need to see how this plays out on the pitch and behind the scenes. This is box office. The A-list star of world football, one of the most famous people in the world, inside and outside of sport, is coming to Manchester United. That's one of the reasons why it was inconceivable for Manchester United to let him go to Manchester City. I mean, I live in the area and it's a relatively small and condensed locality. And if you're Ronaldo coming back and playing for City, without meaning to get too serious on everyone watching this, it wouldn't have been easy for him to live around there if he had crossed the divide. It's not like Peter Schmeichel, which wasn't ideal. It's tarnished his reputation a little bit in the eyes of United fans. Andy Cole, Carlos Tevez the other way, Dennis Law back in the day. This is a different matter altogether. Then we look at a dynamic you just pointed to. The higher profile managers seem to have been lavished with lower profile players at Manchester United. The lower profile manager has been lavished with the Galacticos. And Manchester United signings this summer suggest that there will be a lot of egos and personalities in that dressing room. And that's not going to be an easy balancing act. I think Solskjaer has the benefit of experiencing a lot of egos within the Manchester United dressing room when he was a player. And they were richly successful, and he can always point to that. And so for a manager with less managerial acumen, he does have some credit in the bank. It will appeal to good players and high-profile famous players to have somebody of Cristiano Ronaldo's ilk coming to play with them because it ups their stock as well. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Paul Pogba now. Will he sign a new contract, or will he go ahead and leave as a free agent next summer and want to become the star in his own right somewhere else, because he is going to be overshadowed by Ronaldo. And so that's going to be a tough balancing act. Manchester City, one of their concerns, I think, was the individualistic side of Ronaldo, whereas they're all about the collective. They don't really have any absolute stars. I mean, Grealish has probably immediately become their biggest star. They've always been about the collective unity. And Cristiano Ronaldo will attract eyeballs. He will attract footballs. They will be passing to him, like even Mbappe was looking to pass directly to Messi whenever he could the other night in Messi's debut for PSG. And that could bring tension. Who takes the penalty kicks, the free kicks? And could it inhibit some players who feel and express themselves because the ball needs to go to Ronaldo? Do they get in the team? Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford. We're seeing Dan James leave for Leeds United in a permanent deal. Edinson Cavani, what happens to him? Does he have to give up his shirt number now? And that could cause some friction. Potentially, it might not, but it could in any club if that sort of thing happens. You also need to go to extreme lengths to get it done now the season's started. Special board approval from the Premier League. I mean, this is hopefully for Manchester United in a good way, turning their club upside down. This is a massive seismic moment for them and for football. And for that squad, the harmony is going to be a key thing, both in terms of team selection and chemistry.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. Are you getting a call there?
I am, but I don't know what the...
You can pop off and you can pop off.
It's okay.
No, you've got a mic on as well.
I'll call back.
Pick it up.
I've probably lost a big scoop there.
Oh dear, never mind. There'll be another one. I'm sure it'll come down the line.
It will indeed.
One other point that I wanted to ask you about. Obviously,
I can multitask.
That's fine. Okay, we talked about Manchester City. Obviously, not getting Cristiano Ronaldo. They didn't get Harry Kane. Mm-hmm. How do you think that the sort of within the the rooms where they discuss the boardrooms, Pep Guardiola's office when he's going, what's happening? Why haven't we got this player? And speaking to Cheeky Begaristan and things like that. Is there any sort of unrest within there, or are they thinking, because it seemed to be quite clear that they wanted a striker and they haven't got one. First, very quick, we're not expecting them to do anything today in that regard, are we?
No.
But then, what's the sort of the knock-on effect? Do you think it's going to be like, well, if we don't push and we don't win the title again, or we don't win the Champions League, it's a bit like, well, we missed the trick this summer, didn't we?
If they're panicked and stressed, they're doing a good job of hiding it, because everybody I speak to at and around Manchester City is very calm about the situation.
Fine.
They wanted to bolster and strengthen at the number 9 position. Sergio Aguero leaving, despite the fact that he hadn't played much last season, if at all, and barely scored, meant that they weren't losing out on a great deal from the season where they won the Premier League title and got to the Champions League final. However, they did see it as an area that could be addressed. We reported in early February in the Monday column that Romelu Lukaku was among the key names on their list of potential targets. It included Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, who quite soon it became clear would be staying at Borussia Dortmund. So it was all systems go on Kane, but not at any expense. They were only willing to go to the limit of their own valuation, which to my understanding was £100 million fixed fee plus maybe 20, 25 million pounds in add-ons. That was nowhere near the fee that Tottenham would expect for him, which was said to be around 150, 160 million pounds. But Daniel Levy never actually said that. Maybe he would never have sold him. At various points, we were told he would never have sold him to an English club, only to a foreign club. And if it was to be an English club, maybe it needed to go towards 200 million. But he never said that, and he played a blinder here. Clearly, there's been scrutiny on Kane's advisors and Kane himself. Did they have a verbal agreement with Daniel Levy? Didn't they? Even if they did, what does a verbal agreement mean with Daniel Levy? And if they have led Manchester City to form that valuation on the idea that we can do the rest and get the player out and over to you, then that's gone pretty badly wrong. But from Manchester City's perspective, a 28-year-old with a bit of an injury record, an amazing goal-scoring record, and hopefully many more years to give for club and country. But that was where they saw the extent of their spending. One thing that's clear and important to point out is that he was their priority target ahead of Jack Grealish. But Jack Grealish and the people involved in that deal managed to get it done quicker. It was meant to be that Kane comes in and then Grealish comes in, and Grealish would only be possible if a player departed. It got flipped. Grealish got done with no player departing. And so not only would they have had to spend the money on Kane, they would have had to get rid of a player too. And so it became more and more unrealistic as the deadline loomed closer. Tottenham became more and more resilient in their stance. They weren't even engaging in talks. There were no formal negotiations here. There was a lot of kind of intention, but not actual action. And one other key point is that Manchester City, when you're going for a player of this level, it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, if we don't get him, we'll get this guy. Because not everybody is at Harry Kane's level, and this is not a market that's flush with players who are available of anywhere near that level. It's a really difficult market, and it may be better in the summer of 2022 when the likes of Haaland are available and Mbappe, by the looks of it now, too, and various others. Kane will be another year older, and I don't think Manchester City will be looking to go for him in the summer of 2022, as I understand it. So they were open to opportunities, and that's why Ronaldo came on their radar. They were working hard last week in case there was a right opportunity, but it had to be better than what they already have. And coming to the deadline today, I don't think they've found a possibility that will be better than they already have. Manchester City will never like to waste money, and they will never bring in players that are not going to take them forward. And I think they feel they've got enough, and they've shown they've got enough to be competitive. But if they don't score the goals that they want to, and they don't win the biggest matches that they want to, there will be scrutiny.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, Ferran Torres will be going, I'm doing all right, you know.
And that is a really important point to mention, because City think he could become a top-class number 9.
Yeah.
What they've seen in him from training and in matches, his movement, his positional awareness, his eye for goal, his finishing quality, his speed to get in behind, I think they have a diamond there, and I look forward to seeing him develop.
Well, often they can, I mean, he's not a homegrown player, but happened at Tottenham. Harry Kane got an opportunity and did very well, so you never know what's going to happen. 2 seconds. I'll let you get back onto your phone for 2 seconds. We're going to be done in around about 7 minutes' time, but I just wanted to bring you a couple of updates from 2 of our reporters. As promised, a lot of Leeds fans will be watching today, getting excited about Dan James, who, remember, when was it? A few years back, he was due to sign, got as far as the ground almost, and then had to leave when he was leaving Swansea. He then went to Manchester United. He is going to be heading to Leeds United. Let's get the very latest with the one and only Phil Hay.
Good morning, guys, and happy deadline day. 2.5 years after it looked like it was going to happen, we'll finally have Dan James in at Leeds today. Fees agreed with Manchester United, £25 million initially, with add-ons on top of that. He travelled to Leeds last night and is currently undergoing his medical. That should be confirmed in the next few hours. You'll remember that back in 2019, Bielsa was a whisker away from signing him, but he's never given up that interest, and this should go through shortly. On the outgoing front, remains to be seen what this means for Helder Costa. He looks surplus to requirements slightly with Dan James coming in. There is interest from Valencia in him, and we wait to see if there's any movement on that front.
Thank you very much indeed. Phil will keep us posted on the very latest with Leeds throughout the day. And one other reporter I wanted to go to, which we can squeeze in, just before 10 o'clock, is Chris Woff, who's keeping a close eye on Newcastle. Have they done enough in this transfer window? Are they going to be busy today?
Newcastle United's deadline day business will basically come down to whether they can offload players. Steve Bruce is thinking about naming 4 goalkeepers in his squad, given the issues he's had with Carl Darlow and Martin Dubravka's fitness, and that basically means he doesn't have that much room for income. And Sean Longstaff potentially could still go, but it looks like he may end up staying. Newcastle ideally would like a centre-back and a midfielder, but Bruce was downbeat over the weekend, and it looks like Hamza Chowdhury from Leicester City is Newcastle's best chance of getting a loan sign in before the deadline. But it's been disappointing if they don't get anyone through the door.
Chris, thank you very much indeed. We're going to wrap up. We're going to say thank you very much to David Ornstein.
Thank you.
No problem. David is going to be straight back onto his phone. Because there are various stories breaking as we speak. Just to let you know, our next live show is going to be coming up at lunchtime, 12 till 1. Then we have further shows between 5 and 6. And then we will be building up to the deadline with our next final show at 10:30 all the way through until 11:30. David will be dropping in a little bit later on, and we'll have plenty of other guests for you as well. Quick reminder, if you aren't yet a subscriber to The Athletic, head to theathletic.com/live show, and you'll be able to subscribe there. Keep a close eye on the transfer tracker, and there'll be various stories dropping throughout the day. Breaking news, headlines, but also some bigger, longer reads as well. Thanks very much for joining us. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I've been Adam Leventhal. I'll be back at lunchtime. Take care, everyone.